Society. He's recognized PhD guides for different management subjects. He's been an ex-chairman, Board of Studies, Organizational Management at Pune University. He's achieved a lot in the area of research and academia.
I can't hear you. We lost.
Sorry, I think I got disconnected. Am
Yeah.
I audible? So yes, so as I was saying, so Dr. Amod Markale, his last appointment was as a director of Zeal. He's been a chairman on different boards at Pune University. So Dr. Amod Markale, we're just looking forward to listen to you on this topic of tools for data analysis. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jayant. Thank you, Christ University, Lavasa campus. I have my good memories here. I hope you can hear me. Am I loud and clear?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. I have my good memories, and I cherish those memories when I was there in the initial stages when they started with a school in Lavasa. Jayant has given my brief introduction, and it is always my pleasure to talk to the researchers, young researchers, who at their stages of their research journey do look for help and guidance, and they require assurances, especially with quantitative data analysis, because that is one area where we require reassurances, saying that whether the test that I have applied is the most appropriate test, or what are the other appropriate tests that I can do. Do I really need to have an hypothesis, and do I really need to validate that hypothesis? So all these questions generally arise in the minds of the researchers. And with that context, I generally conduct some sessions on data analysis. In today's session, I would start with probably giving you a background about the importance of statistics, how research methodology has evolved, and why we are shifting from the Greek philosophers, where logic and inductive methods were there, and then we moved on to the deductive methods. From there, how statistics has got importance in today's world, and what would be the most appropriate statistics. With that background, with your permission, I'll just share my screen to let me know whether my screen is visible. Yeah. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so that's the journey that we're going to take. With the time that we lost, I'll try to extend the time that we lost and try to finish well before your lunch time, right? So thank you, Jayant, and thank you, ma'am, for inviting me again. With that background, we begin. So generally, what do people approach me with? And when as a student of research, whether it is for your peer-reviewed paper or it is a journal article that you're writing, generally it is finding for the topics. Where do I get topics from? What would be relevant topics? Will my topic be accepted? Those are the questions that arise in the mind of the researcher when he starts putting his little steps towards the journey called as research. So where do you generally get your ideas? The ideas generally come from prior experience. If I recollect what Dr. Jayant had a topic, he was trying to compare the aid for accessibility of hearing people, hearing impaired people with proprietary licensed softwares and those who were in the free domain, and whether they meet to the expectations of the computer users when the disabled or Divyangjan, as we call them, are using computers. And what are the drawbacks with which we probably would be able to overcome and suggest to the people what is the right kind of software that you should be using when it comes to accessibility, use of computers for differently able people. So we did some kind of, he collected data and we did some kind of statistical analysis where we were able to find the scores of ease of using those softwares. So this idea came to Dr. Jain from his prior experience where he started working on his computer applications. It could come from recent literature. Like Jayant has just introduced, I'm a recognized guide under Savitribai Phule Pune University. Earlier it was called Pune University. And we have just finished with our PhD entrance test, and the rounds for interviews are started. So students are approaching me with what would be the relevant topics, what should be my topic. A student approached me with a topic, probably employee retention, or somebody thought of probably uh, those attrition in IT industry. I said, with the latest news that you hear and that's coming up in the context of IT industry, especially Amazon firing, we know what Twitter did once it was taken over. So what is happening with Twitter? So is it retention, it is attrition, or it is to do with a pink slip, and what do people do once they get a pink slip? More interestingly, the topic that is being discussed is the moonlighting area, and that area is still unexplored. The definitional issues are still there. If an employee is doing a voluntary job, working for an NGO, or maybe cricket coaching in the evenings, he has his calls and he lets the kids do their batting practice on the ground. And by the time they're practicing, he is doing his attending the meeting on his laptop. Is that moonlighting? So there are different definitional issues when it comes to moonlighting. So rather than go for work-life balance, go for retention, go for attrition, moonlighting is one area that is of interest for HR people. And how do we demarcate between thin line between ethical issues, double job, earnings, substantial pay to sustain in this inflation? All those issues probably get into this moonlighting. So recent literature. It could be personal interest. I know a lady who has done her PhD and she has been awarded a PhD. She had a shop on Lakshmi Road. If you're from Pune and moved on the streets of Pune, you know Lakshmi Road in Pune is one of those shopping areas, and it has diverse kind of shops, right from jewelry to Tulsi Bagh is one area where women like to visit. Then it comes to apparels and clothings, and then it comes to, if you go to interiors, then you have the hardware, that is Goriali. So these shops have been there for more than 100 years. And she had a small shop where she was dealing in handicrafts. And there is one interesting shop which is to do Miraskar, which is interesting, which is again a 100-year-old shop, which is to musical instruments, especially harmoniums. So she wanted to study with her personal interest the history of shopping, shops that established on Lakshmi Road during the eras of Peshwas. It evolved, and now whether there has been a change in the product offerings, the merchandising that happened, and the way the business process happens on shops on Lakshmi Road. So it was her personal interest that she wanted to do her PhD in that. It could be intuition. You see into the future, you see what's likely to happen. Somebody from finance sitting there amongst the participants. You are talking about digital, central bank digital currency that has just been introduced. A month back, it was introduced for businesses. On 1st of December, it is introduced for retailers. So how is it different? How easy it will be, for people to accept? Whenever we talk about, say, digital, or we talk about the new technology, there are 3 or 4 A's that we generally talk about. One is the acceptability, one is the affordability, one is the accessibility. So these are the 3 A's that we generally talk about softwares and moving from the traditional methods to digital era. So intuitionally, I feel, as a researcher, I feel that people are, Shina Iyengar, I remember, another topic that we discussed in Christ University, that was to do with choices, and that came from one of your professors there, where he was talking about pasta and number of products and brands available, and how is it confusing for a purchaser or a buyer to buy amongst this. And Shina Iyengar uh, is probably one who wrote books on the choices of many. So intuitionally, I feel you give them many options, like from traditional cash banking to check banking to UPI to NEFTs, all those digital transactions. And why do we require digital currency? So intuitively, I feel that there is something that we need to discuss on this digital currency introduced by the central bank, that is RBI in India. And then if you're working professional, you have many observations, your organization needs to be explored, maybe on a shop floor or maybe to do with supply chain or inventory management, and need arises. So these are the areas that induces a topic in the minds of the researcher. So when we start talking about research, there are many authors, many experts who talk about what exactly is research. But I personally believe that there are only 4 fundamental tasks that any researcher has to accomplish. And the first one is, researcher has to identify the subject for the study. Now, what I mean by subject is not topic, it's not the area. By subject, I mean the sample, right? And by sample, I do not mean living things. It could be non-living things, maybe items of inventory. That's a sample. And you're going to randomly select 4 bins out of the 10 bins that you have in your stores. So that is a sample. Or it is probably ABC analysis, based on which you're going to choose only 20% of the components or inventory that is going to cost you 80%. So depending on what you are interested. Maybe somebody is interested in farmer suicide in Maharashtra, and then which districts of Marathwada. You're going to talk about Jalna, Aurangabad, or it is Usmanabad. So that's how you talk about sample. So first, you have to identify the sample, and to identify the sample, you must have a well-defined population. That's the first fundamental task. Many times, we need to defend ourselves when the sample is inappropriate and there is a selection bias. Many reviewers, I've been a reviewer for PhD thesis. So the first thing that I look in research methodology is there a selection bias on the part of the researcher while selecting the sample? Truly speaking, the sample that you select must be error-free, must be unbiased sample, and most importantly, it must be true representative of the population. The next fundamental task is, how are you going to interact with sample? Is it going to be, here we are talking about the primary tools for data collection, right? So tools for primary data collection. So whether it's going to be in-depth interviews, or it is going to be a focus group discussion method, or it is going to be a questionnaire, more popular, right? Survey and questionnaires have become more popular these days, especially in business management. So whether it is questionnaire, it's an online questionnaire, right? You have Google Forms, you have surveymonkey.com, you have Question Pro. It's one of the best tools that is available. It is available free with certain restrictions, and then paid versions give you a lot of give a lot of better tools to capture data, and you can collect a lot of respondents. There is a restriction when it comes to free license. So Question Pro, I'm going to use at the end of this session, I'm going to use direct poll, which is another tool for capturing data. Now, maybe especially when it comes to pre-session and post-session evaluation of training sessions, pre and post session. So how are you going to collect data? Interacting with tool. Then next is avoiding arbitrary findings. And the last one is convincing others of what you found out. Here I'll try to quickly narrate a story that most authors speak about what exactly is arbitrary findings and convincing others of what you found. Yeah, I request the participants to kindly mute. There's some disturbance at the background. Kindly mute. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so whenever we talk about this, convincing others and avoiding arbitrary findings, it is generally this story is narrated. I quickly narrate that story since we lost some time. I'll quickly narrate that story. There is a scientist who is trying to find out whether butterflies can hear. And the next objective of his research was if butterflies could hear, to find out their hearing organs. So what he does is he randomly catches a live butterfly, beautiful garden like the garden that we have in Lavasa, beautiful ambience, greenery around, a lot of flowering plants. So there are a lot of butterflies. So unbiased, randomly caught butterfly is caught and it's kept on the table and it is ordered fly, fly, fly. The observation is butterfly flew. The conclusion that we draw is butterflies can hear, right? So now the next part of the research is to find out if butterflies, what are the hearing organs of the butterfly. Sad story, a cruel story. So the researcher takes the pair of scissors, snaps the wings of the butterfly and orders fly, fly, fly. Observation, butterfly did not fly. Conclusion, butterflies hear through wings. Although if you look at technically and if you want to analyze academically as well as theoretically, it fits into the definition of experimentation. Experiment is causal research design in which you have a randomly caught butterfly, you have a procedure wherein there is an observation method where there is a command and there is an observation. So it fits into the definition of causal research. It is experimentation. You do it, I do it, somebody else does it in this world. They would get the similar results. So there is replicability, which is one of the fundamental characteristics of experiments. But have we achieved the last two fundamental tasks, convincing others and avoiding arbitrary findings? No, we haven't really been achieved. We have not been able to achieve those fundamental tasks. Now, if you smartly look at these four fundamental tasks, the first two can be tied together and they can be called as one activity. And the last two can again be tied together and it could be a part of another activity. The next slide will tell you that. How do I select research subjects and how do I work with subjects to gather data? So this is to do with data collection. That again comes from statistics. Sampling and questionnaire designing will come from statistics. So you were using a scientific method of data collection, but then you use a wrong test that leads to arbitrary findings and not able to convince others, right? So fundamentally speaking, these four tasks can be clubbed together. First two can be clubbed together towards data collection, and the other one is related to data analysis. So you have scientific methods of data collection, and the most appropriate test befitting the type of data collected would lead you to avoid those last two arbitrary findings and convincing others. I hope I've made the point very clear. Four fundamental tasks: selecting the subjects, selecting the tool with which we're going to interact with the subjects, avoiding arbitrary finding, and convincing others of what you found out. So quickly, let's have a look at what is research process. To summarize what exactly is a research process, I generally use this hourglass method. If you look at the hourglass method, there are two cups which are inverted over each other, and there is a bottleneck. So here you have the broad end, then it narrows down, and this is the bottleneck, right? And then it again gets broader, and we have the broadest. We have the broadest base here. So based on this, if you can really summarize the steps that are involved in research process, the I generally call this broad end is the topic or area identification. So this is where you start with broad area of interest. I want to do some research in marketing management. I'm interested in personal financial management. I'm talking about, say, HR management, HRM, right? So human resource management. So that's the broad area. Once you start talking about what exactly in marketing management, is it to do with, say, consumer behavior, customer satisfaction, or is it to do with social media marketing, or is it to do with digital marketing? So that's where you start filtering down from broad area to the research problem, right? So yes, I'm talking about, say, product offerings and store location as well as layout. Say DMart, especially I'm talking about Avenue Supermarkets, which is the parent company for DMart. So location, vicinity, plant layout of the store, or it is, you can compare it with the west side, wherein you are greeted with aromatic fragrances which make you linger longer. Then comes your cosmetics, and then the other layouts. So is that what you are trying to study, or is it the reviews that people leave on the e-retailers, and how much do they influence your buying decision? Is that area that you would like to investigate? So next is research problem. Then comes the bottleneck. Just imagine this is an hourglass, and the hourglass is filled with fine particles of sand. And what is the process? The fine particles of sand flow from the upper cup, and they go through this bottleneck and go down in the bottom cup. And the sand filled inside takes exactly 60 minutes for it to move from the upper cup to the bottom cup. Now just imagine, if there is a stone or a pebble here in the sand, amongst the sand, and the stone gets stuck here, what's going to happen? It's going to prevent the sand flowing from the top to the bottom, and it's going to halt the entire process of keeping time. Similarly, in our research, when you encounter this kind of a bottleneck, this bottleneck is to do with research methods, right? Data sampling, data collection, tools for data collection. So you need to really have fine-tune your methods, research topic, data collection techniques, verify and edit the data collected, and the sampling technique that you used, like I said, must be unbiased sample and must be true representative of the population. So this is where the bottleneck becomes important. If you're through with this process, the process continues and leads you to data analysis and thesis writing, or writing your suggestions. These suggestions form the broadest base, which is putting your research into action. So quickly, I have summarized the research process. Now, here I talked about research problem. I've seen many people, many researchers, research scholars, I would say, commit a mistake by not defining the problem correctly. They understand what exactly is research. They understand which area they want to investigate or explore. But then when it comes to writing their research questions, they generally make a mistake by not using those many words that are required to define the problem. And by not being able to define the problem correctly, it will lead you to questions which may have answers, which may not be wrong answers, but may not be acceptable. I picked this up from internet itself, so I don't claim the proprietary for this kind of visual that you're seeing. Here you find that the question that has been posed here is to find X. And we have a smart student in the class who says, why find, here it is, and they points out to X. Now, the major intention of the teacher was to put to student the use of Pythagoras theorem. And it was expected the value should be 5. That is the value that the student should have reported. The value is 5. But what happened was the question was loosely posed, and the question should have an actually put as find the value of x. The word value was missing, and therefore find x was the question that was put. And smart, you got an answer. Here it is. Although it is not a wrong answer, we appreciate the smartness of the student, but it is not an acceptable answer. So while posing the research question, you should be putting in those many words, well-defined terms, maybe as a part of your working variables that you have defined. By sales, I mean sales at the retailer. By sales, I mean the number of articles leaving the godown of the factory. So what exactly is sales is what you'll have to define, right? So those many words that are required to define the problem, so that you can avoid arbitrary findings and should be able to convince others of what you found. Similarly, to kill the monotony, I have another one. Although it doesn't fit into any kind of mathematical expressions or mathematical formulas, but 1 upon n sine x is equal to what? N cancels out, so 6 has to be equal to 6. That's what one of the students answers. Similarly, here we have limit x tending to 8. 1 upon x minus 8 is infinity. We know that anything divided by 0 is not defined and it is represented as infinity. But here, infinity looks like 8 rotated anti-clockwise 90 degrees. So the now question is limit x tending to 5, 1 upon x minus 5. So the answer that has been given is rotate 5 anti-clockwise 90 degrees, and that should be the answer. Here again, I tell you that this is definitely not a wrong answer. I appreciate the smartness and intellectual of the student, but this is not an acceptable answer. So the takeaway from this is that you should be posing the research questions, which will lead to you to formulating the objectives and writing the hypothesis in such a manner that in those many words that are required to define the research problem. Right. Now, where do you really find problem? So these 5 W's and 1 H will come to help. Like I said, who is causing the problem? Customer satisfaction. Let's talk about a reality. We had a Fortune hotel in Lavasa. I don't know, Jan sir, whether it's still there. But then they are always constantly trying to improve their services. And they
it's close, sir.
Is it closed? Oh, yeah. So sad. Yeah. Right. So Fortune Hotel in Lavasa closed. Maybe they did not undertake a study to find out the customer satisfaction. But then you are carrying out a customer's feedback and customer satisfaction survey of people visiting your hotel. So you would like to say who is causing the problem? It's not the individual we are talking about, the process, the system, whether it is the check-in, whether it is the housekeeping, or it is to do with your restaurant food, quality, portion, taste, hygiene, or it is the billing, or it is probably the ambience. So exactly what is causing the problem? So who is causing the problem? Who says it is a problem? For a manager who is standing with his chest pulled out, he says, oh, I don't think we have a problem in our association, in our institute, in our organization. But then he would say, who is saying this is a problem? So you would like to investigate. So this 5 W's and H will lead you to actually identify the problem and try to address these problems by formulating the proper research questions and then research objectives. Okay. Here, for example, I'm saying, when does this problem occur? If somebody is trying to sell, that of trying to come out with a algorithm trading is one of the areas that is happening in financial management when it comes to personal finance and investments. So people are coming out with algorithm trading, stock market, right? So everything is cyclical, and if I'm going to say that the Rainyware is sale of Rainyware is down in the month of November and December. Obviously, it is to do with seasonality. The woolen, if you claim that the woolen wear is not pick up sale as compared to last year, then I see you have a valid point. But if you're comparing month of June, month of November or December, with probably rainy weather in this part of the country, Maharashtra. I know they're predicting rains next week, but that's something to do with environment and global warming. Just to skip that. But then, when was this problem occurring? When did this problem occur start first? Is it to do with firing of a particular person or a particular employees, category of employees, and you started getting complaints about food in your canteen? So exactly, that's where you start putting in those research questions. So we go next. That that leads us, once you have decided on the research process, type of respondents you will be encountering with, the tool that you're going to use, and of course data analysis is the part of the next part of this session, which will be coming soon. So we have to decide on the research design. So broadly speaking, the research methodology defines research design as it's a blueprint or a master plan of all the activities that you plan to undertake during your journey of research, right? So there are three types of research designs: exploratory research design, you have descriptive research design, and you have causal research design, right? So exploratory is to do with qualitative data, it is to do with exploration, it is to do with when researcher has no background to work on. There is ample of, don't think there is no background doesn't mean that there is no literature review available. There is literature review available, there is a lot of literature, but then you are not sure what kind of data you're going to encounter, what kind of evidences you're going to encounter. That's something to do with your serial on TV, most popular serial on TV, which is CID. Or if you want to draw an analogy, that would be to do with, say, Sherlock Holmes. And Sherlock Holmes, when investigating a crime, doesn't know that he's going to find a gun, or he's going to find nail marks, or he's going to find blonde hair on the bed. No, he doesn't have any background, what kind of evidences he's going to encounter. As and when he gets evidences, he tries to make something meaningful out of those evidences and draw inferences based on that. So exploratory research design. Descriptive research design is to do with finding out association of relationship between the variables in a given time frame. And causal research design is all about experimentation, cause and effect kind of studies. It is what if analysis is also causal. Once you control for independent variables, effect of it is seen on dependent variables. So that is causal research design. So uncertain, vague problem, you're not able to define what kind of evidences you're going to get, what kind of analysis you're going to draw, whether it is qualitative approach or it's going to be quantitative approach. It is exploratory research design. If you're aware of the problem, the terms are well defined, you have tools to measure them, such as customer satisfaction index, employee satisfaction, 360-degree appraisal. So you have those methods, tools available to measure those, right? Employee satisfaction, retention, right? Financial motivators and non-financial motivators, hygiene factors and intrinsic factors. So you have theory X and theory Y. So you have descriptive, you are aware and it has been researched. So descriptive research design, and it is causal research design. So what is the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research? It was all about Greek philosophers. When mathematics had not developed, the scientific thinking was there, but it did not take form of experimentation. So here we generally go by what Greek philosophers did and how they probably deduced from generalization to specific events and drawing conclusion to a specific event. Here it has been quoted. Aristotle made observation such as all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is going to die. So here it starts with a general statement which is true. Yes, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, and therefore Socrates is going to die. So it was based on logic. It was based on general observation to a specific one event that was being concluded with facts being built on that. Then came, of course, Newton and Bacon, who started developing the theories and experimentations that actually scientific thinking came. And here we know Newton's theory. It was just the opposite. He saw an apple falling down. So it was a singular event that he observed. And based on this event, he generalized that all things that go up must come down. So there is a unseen force of gravity that pulls everything towards the center of the earth. So he generalizes from one observation, which is to do with an apple. If you want, you can visit that. It is said that in Ayuka, which is the campus, it's in the campus of Pune University, Savitribai Phule University. The same apple tree sapling is there in Ayuka in Pune University, which Newton had seen the apple from fall from there, right? So this is how we changed from philosophy to scientific thinking towards mathematics and mathematical theory building, right? So again, here is something that I always tell the research scholars about it. This is I picked up from a book, which is a more popular book amongst the students of MBA, business research method, as well as marketing research. So William Zickman is the author of marketing research, as well as he has written books on business research method. And this song is taken from, this poem is taken from his book. William Zickman says, a fact without a theory is like a ship without a sail. It will not be sailing properly. It will go away. It will not be on the path, right? It is like a boat without a rudder, which keeps the boat steady and keeps going in the desired path. It is like a kite without a tail. A fact without a figure is a tragic final act, but one thing worse in this universe is a theory without a fact. So now we are approaching towards building the theories, testing the theories with certain facts. And those facts will be based on your data collected and the statistical tools that you have used to validate this. So it is coming from William Zickman. Okay, now coming to the last part of the session. I have seen students who feel nervous, don't have confidence, and want to shy away from data analysis. For a simple reason, many of them have given up mathematics after their 10th standard and pursuing their arts and other courses. People are not willing to give it a try, and they are not comfortable with numbers. So all you have to do is to analyze data, you must have an inquisitive mind. A simple inquisitive mind is nothing to do with statistics. It is to do with why, how, where, when. If you ask those questions and then try to read through the data, you should be able to put forward or test the theories. If I'm going to say that 80% of my customers were satisfied and 20% of them were not satisfied, I'm going to have my inquisitive mind and scratch my brains and say, oh, 20%, I'm good, I'm happy that 80% are happy. But I'd like to find out who are these 20% and why they are not happy. So I'm going to have inquisitive mind. In fact, if I was to find out, we are all celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So if I'm going to look at the 75 years that India has been celebrating as its independence years, what is the journey that we have undertaken? What is the life expectancy? To what extent we have achieved our targets? Is there anything further we can do about it? Right? So just by understanding the numbers and get carried away with numbers, I would rather put into question the numbers. Who says so? How is this data collected? Especially there must be professors and students from economics. When we talk about GDP, there is a lot of discussion. The World Bank is talking about GDP growth in India. The credit rating companies are talking about GDP growth in India. Government of India is talking about GDP growth in India, and they are using different parameters to portray what exactly is this. So whether it is on PPP basis or it is net basis, we really need to understand. So you must have an inquisitive mind. You must be comfortable with numbers, and that's where I would say there is always a debate amongst the academicians and experts in research methods, whether we should go for qualitative data analysis, qualitative research approach, or we should go for quantitative research approach. The only edge, both of them are respectable, both of them are welcome. Depending on your research question, you can decide, and the research design that you plan to adopt, you have to decide on whether qualitative approach or quantitative approach. The only edge that quantitative data has is people do understand numbers. If I'm going to say that the average score of subject A in Institute X was 80.2%, and is same subject in Institute Y was 62%. So I know that the performance of students of Institute X is better than Institute Y in the same subject. So people do understand. When I say that Sachin Tendulkar's average test century score was test score run was 53.8 runs. So I do understand that it was more than 50, and it's supposed to be one of the highest scores, and record stands in his name. So people do understand. We are into the World Cup happening at Doha, right, Qatar. So tally points and number of ball position in which team. So those are all expressed in numbers, and every one of us is comfortable with numbers. That's why you should be comfortable with numbers, and you should be able to have flair to convince people with numbers. And I would just say that, so we should be increasing our advertisement expenditure. I'm talking to my vice president marketing. So we should be increasing our expenditure on marketing expenditure on advertisement. Just because I found that there is a correlation, positive correlation with Carl Pearson's correlation coefficient 0.95, which indicates that with sales, which indicates that sales will increase as you increase the advertisement expenditure, right? Or I would say that average review for on the Google on Amazon site, average review for our product is 4.5, whereas the competitor has got just 3.8. So my boss is going to be convinced because I'm just throwing up on him the data that is there and which is numerical data, and people are able to infer numbers. So you should have a flair to convince people with numbers. What is statistical analysis aimed at? Analysis is aimed at answering the questions. You just can't pick up everything, and most of the MBA students do that in their summer internship projects, which is one of the mandatory courses with 6 credits under Savitribai Phule Pune University. It is there in their 3rd semester. So most of the students have questionnaires, and those questionnaires are analyzed. They have a table and they have a pie chart, and the interpretation below is it is observed from the above table that 80% of the customers liked our company and 20% of did not like them. So it is just an observation that you're putting into words. People are able to, human brain is trained to visualize, accept things visually faster than probably reading through the sentences. So people have already interpreted what it looks like, the pie chart. The green pie, the larger pie is happy and the smaller pie is unhappy. But then why this is happening? So data needs to be further analyzed to answer the research questions. You should be able to identify the theme, pattern that emerges. And that's why you have the scatter plots. So even before you start actually with interpretation of data, visually you inspect the data by drawing the scatter plots and see whether you find any pattern emerging, whether there is any correlation, right? Or there are categories. So you probably have the frequency distribution table, and you are able to see class with the highest frequency, number of males, visit to the mall, and number of gender. Based on that, you are able to see that males visit to the malls by males is fewer than probably the other gender. So you should be able to find the pattern. You should be able to see the categories. Okay. So why is study of statistics essential? It tells you to read the data, but more importantly, once you start reading through the data, you develop a pattern, you develop a template, you develop that inquisitiveness to read through the data, right? So if I'm going to continuing with my example of say hotel, and if I find that 80% of my customers were happy, but I'm still going to investigate who are these 20%. Is it to do with parking? Is it to do with ambience? Is it to do with hygiene? Is it to do with housekeeping? What exactly is this? And then I'm going to draw probably pivot tables in Excel, or probably cross tabs in SPSS, frequency tables, and then going to look through, okay, so whether they were frequent visitors or they were one-time visitors, who are those who are unhappy, right? How to produce that data? That will provide answers to the important questions. So how do you produce this data, right? Again, that is to do with sampling, that is to do with data interpretations. And like I said, data, 4 fundamental tasks, whether it is data collection or data analysis. It is definition of statistics itself is it teaches you how to gather, organize, and analyze data, and then to infer underlying realities from data, right? So broadly speaking, statistics is divided into 2 branches. One is the descriptive statistics, and the other one is inferential statistics. Under descriptive statistics, we generally have 2 types: data visualization, that is tabular representation of data, graphical representation of data, univariate analysis, which is to do with central tendencies. It is to do with mean, median, mode, averages, dispersion, range. That is to do with descriptive statistics. Standard deviation, that is to do with descriptive statistics. And the next, here is an example. I have a pie chart, and here we have a pie chart about a question that we asked people about, BRTS in Pune. It was in 2016 that Pune introduced BRTS, Bus Rapid Transit System, and the contrary to the earlier bus stops, which are on the left hand side of the road, people would the commuters were comfortable in boarding the bus from the left hand side because they didn't have to cross the main road, service road, main road, and reach to the middle lane, that is the median of the road, to board the bus or alight from the bus. So we asked a question, 310 respondents, whether they were comfortable in crossing the roads. And we wanted to find out whether there is any difference between gender and comfort in crossing the road. So out of the total respondents, 151, that is 64.26 people said no, they were not comfortable, whereas 34.74, that is 84 of them said that they were comfortable in crossing the road. So here we have the descriptive statistics, a pie chart drawn, and it tells us how many people amongst the commuters and users of BRTS, how many were comfortable and not comfortable. Among them, how many were male and how many were female. Inferential statistics is the second branch of statistics, which deals with hypothesis testing. Generally, hypothesis is stated to find out whether your sample has got the same parameters as the population parameters. So based on your sample parameters, can you conclude that the population has the same parameters? That is where hypothesis estimation happens. It also has correlations and other multivariate regression analysis, controlling for the independent variables, and effect of it is seen on the dependent variables, multiple variables, right? Multiple independent variables and one single dependent variables, or it can be to do with analysis of variance. So inferential statistics is to do with hypothesis testing. Here is an example that we talked about. We had males and females. So I have a cross tabulation here. On the column, we have the gender, males and females, and rows are divided into comfortable or non-comfortable. So out of the 310 people that were surveyed, 198 said they were not comfortable in crossing the road in order to the board or alight from the BRTS bus. Out of 198, we had 151 who were males and 47 were females. Now, if I was to look at the columns, total 75 females, my sample of 310 consisted of 75 females, out of which 47 were not comfortable in crossing the road and 28 were comfortable in crossing the road. Similarly, 235 males out of the total surveyed population, we had 310 as a sample size, total respondents. Out of 310, 235 were males. Out of that, 151 were not comfortable in crossing the road and 84 were comfortable in crossing the road. Now, immediately what comes to my mind is whether there is any association between gender and comfort in crossing the road. And to do this, we can use non-parametric, because this data is categorical data, nominal data. Next slide will help you with that. Nominal data, because gender is just divided into two mutually exclusive categories, which is males and females. Of course, with the Supreme Court ruling, we are to include the third category, the transgenders, right? But then this data was collected way back before the Supreme Court ruling came. So males and females, and whether there is any association between this. And we can use chi-square test for independence of variables to analyze this data, because the data is categorical data, discrete categorical data, right? So here is a slide which will guide you towards what are the permissible statistics when data is divided. Let me see whether we have. Let me go to this slide first. Then I'll tell you what is that. Okay. Let me go here first. So nominal data, like I was saying, is qualitative data. Here, the variable is divided into mutually discrete categories, such as gender, mother tongue of a person, religion. These are some examples. Nationality could be an example, right? Here we have the labels. For example, gender, we have males, females, and others. Nationality could be any country in the globe: Indian, Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, Pakistani. So SAARC countries, right? Nepal, they are SAARC countries. So you have nationalities. If you're more interested in nationalities, please watch. The knockouts are starting. World Cup FIFA starting. So watch out. The knockout are starting. So watch for the nationalities there. So nominal data. Yes and no. Do you prefer, what kind of beverage you prefer? Tea and coffee. It's again a label. We can't say that those who prefer tea are superior to people who do not prefer tea. So it's just a nationality. It's just a preference. So yes and no. So nominal data. The next is ordinal data. Here there is an order, but the differences between them are not known to us. Rank is one of the examples of ordinal data. Low income, middle income, high income is an ordinal data. We know that low income is lower to middle income is lower to high income, but how much lower we don't know unless we know their actual income. So if you define low income as 0 to 5,000 per month, anything above between 6 to 10 is 1,000 is middle income, and anything about 10,000 per month is high income. People belonging to say 1, 2, 3, any of these 1,000 rupees per month will be included into low income. So somebody who earns 4,000 will be included in low income, and somebody who earns 6,000 will be included into low income. The difference between their incomes is just 2,000 rupees. Now, if you compare, somebody who earns 1,000 rupees belongs to the low income category, and somebody who earns 6,000 rupees belongs to middle income. But the difference between their incomes is 5,000 rupees. So internal differences are not known, but there is an order. Say up to education level, up to SSC is lower to, up to HSC is lower to, graduation is lower to post-graduation. So that is ordinal data. And ratio interval can be treated as scale data. And permissible statistics is Frequency distribution, you can draw frequency distribution. Median and percentiles cannot be drawn for nominal data. Only mode is possible for nominal data. Sum and differences cannot be calculated for ordinal data. Mean, standard deviation, standard error of mean cannot be calculated for nominal and ordinal data. Ratio and coefficient of variation can be calculated only for ratio. Here is another, I'm talking about central tendencies. Arithmetic mean, median, mode, geometric mean, these are central tendencies. Harmonic mean, right? Quartile deviation and range, these are dispersion, these are not central tendencies, these are right. These are dispersions, right? So then you have independent variable and dependent variable. Income depends on educational qualification, or probably type of car that person is proposing to buy. Consumer behavior depends on family size, need for car, daily commute, disposable income available, EMI. So those are all independent variables, and desire to buy depends on those independent factors. Here is one example that I have just theoretical framework. I've just randomly picked up some training sessions. Yeah, some training sessions. Independent variable and dependent variable is safety food knowledge, handlers of food handlers, implementation of safety food practices by food handlers. All these are dependent variables, and independent variables is cost of training, safety. So probably type of training is independent, outbound training, indoor training, third party training, trainer, all that is probably independent and depends on knowledge of the food handlers. Here are certain associations. Phi, Cramer's V, coefficient C. You use this for 2 by 2 tables, dichotomous data. Cramer's V, any n by n table. Again, it has you have similar, it must be a symmetric matrix, right? Contingency, coefficient C, again n by n, but here the data is nominal data. Lambda symmetric, nominal or ordinal data. Value of lambda varies from 0 to 1, 0 indicating no association, 1 indicating strong association. You have Kendall's tau B, or it is used for rank data, ordinal data. -1 to 1, -1 indicating completely negative, perfect negative correlation, 1 indicating perfect positive correlation, 0 indicating no correlation. Similarly, we have Kendall tau C, B, and C. They are different measures, and depending on the measure of the variable, you can apply these statistical tests. Spearman's rank correlation is one important statistical test, which is similar to Karl Pearson's correlation coefficient, which again is represented by rho -1 to 1, -1 indicating perfect correlation, perfect negative correlation, 0 indicating no correlation, 1 indicating perfect positive correlation. These are certain types of tests, statistical procedures, correlations. We have just explained Karl Pearson's correlation coefficient to be used when data is numeric data measured on interval scale. Analysis of variance, where we talk about deviation from mean, standard deviation. So ANOVA, you have multiple variables, then you use covariance, how other behaves when the one variable moves, how other behaves, whether positive or negative. So ANACOVA. You have multivariate linear regression analysis. You have one dependent variable and multiple independent variables. So use regression analysis, predicting the values of dependent variable for known values of independent variable. You have multivariate analysis of variance. You hear MANOVA and ANOVA. In ANOVA, you have only categorical variables. Here you have multiple variables in MANOCOVA, and you have t-test to find out difference between the mean between the categories or within the categories, or find out whether the calculated mean is significantly different from the hypothesized mean. For example, we have t-test for say customer satisfaction, and hypothesized value, I feel that the customer satisfaction should be somewhere around 3, on a 5-point scale I'm talking about 3, and the value that I'm getting is 3.2. so whether this 3.2 is significantly different from the hypothesized value which was 3. So t-test, or within the group itself, the score given by males for probably visit to a mall, and satisfaction index for a particular mall, males and females, whether their score significant, mean of their score significantly differs. For that matter, you have employees, male employees and female employees, and employee satisfaction survey. So whether males are more satisfied, or females are more satisfied. So we would like to compare the average or arithmetic mean, difference in mean, whether the difference is satisfied. And I have already given you example of chi-square test, where chi-square test is a test, a more popular test. It is a non-parametric test, is to be used when data is discrete categorical data, and you want to find out whether the two variables are independent. So it is called as chi-square test for independence. That's it. I'm on time. Yeah. Jayant, I'm on time. Here is yes, something. Sir. Yeah. You can scan this. That will take you to direct poll, and I'll start the poll. And for those who probably can't scan on their mobile, what I'll do is I will type the link. I'll type the link in the chat box.
Sure, sir. Great. Meanwhile, sir, can you please switch on your video?
I will. Let me just copy this.
Sure.
Because they're all must be scanning the QR code. So.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Let me go.
So meanwhile, the floor is open for questions.
Yeah, it is. So, it is. I'm posting the link in the chat box. You can click that, or you can just scan this.
Oh, thank you, sir. Right. Got it in the chat.
Okay.
So any questions from the box?
Yeah, I'm open for questions. In the meantime, let's start this. Let's start this. Wait. Okay, direct poll results. Okay. You there, everyone?
Yes,
you can
sir.
Put it in the chat box.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there. Can we start the poll?
Sir, yes, it's
sir.
not yet started yet, so please start it.
Yeah, I'll start. Whether everybody scanned this image and they are on this link. You can see the question?
Okay. Yes.
Which of the following is not a measure of central tendency? Is not a measure. Only 4 votes, 4 participants. I see 16 of you. Excluding, there must be 15. I've got 6 votes. Okay. What of others are not able to join? Should I give you the answer?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Standard deviation is the right answer.
Oh, okay.
Rest of them are all central tendencies. Harmonic mean. And now I find that bar going up. Answer given, bar going up. Okay. This is pretty simple.
Yeah, nominal. Yeah, right.
There are only 5 voters out of 15. Let's exclude Jen and Becky ma'am. So at least 14. 7. Okay, you're right. It's nominal. Okay, next.
Okay.
This is not for evaluation. It just three of you have voted, and okay, now we have got 5. Okay.
I like that most of the people are saying improper, which is interesting.
It is a variable. It is a variable. And I go with 12.5, which is nominal. They have answered that answer correctly. It's a nominal. Although it is expressed in numbers, it has nothing to do with 98220. Has got nothing to do with 98230. You can't say 98230. Person whose number starts with 98230 is superior to someone who has got 98220. Pin code of area. It is nothing. It is just a label that is attached. So let's go next. Yeah, the majority is right. There's something like, Jen, we have this,
Yes.
what's it, right? So,
Yes.
Opinion poll, public opinion. Most of you are right. Carl Pearson's correlation coefficient. That's the right answer. Next. Here I see 8 votes going up. Earlier I had put just maximum was 5. Here I see 8. Okay. Okay, the last one, I think. This probably will have to come from your earlier understanding. Okay. I think it's a multiple choice. This question you can select multiple. Six participants, 14 votes. Yeah, all the 4 are the criteria to use questionnaires. They are all important factors when you use questionnaires.
Right.
Mean, median, mode. I'm sorry, participants, 8 of you, you're all wrong. It is an average. It is central tendency.
Okay.
The last one. This again is, I suppose, multiple choice. Okay. Yeah. Appearance is crucial, must be no long. It should not be longer. The shorter, the better. Your contacts will help you to respond. Yes, maybe you can start with your year 1 convenience sampling. Yes, absolutely right, 8 of you. Focus group discussion is one of the tools for collecting primary data.
Okay. It took me some time to figure this question out.
Yeah, thank you so much, 6 of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've stopped sharing. I have
Switch on your video, sir.
I'll do it. Any questions, any queries?
Okay, so looks like there are no questions. You have some
Let
questions?
me check in the chat box whether there is any. Okay.
No, there are no.
Okay. Jayan taught me something. Jayan told me at the end of the session, if you ask a question, you have any queries and nobody says to that, so either you have understood everything or you have understood nothing. What should we conclude?
They're all hungry. They want to go for lunch. So it's the third option there. So.
Understood everything, sir.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. So I would request Jerin to propose a vote of thanks.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's been such an honor to be part of such a wonderful session on the tools on research method, especially the major topics like degrees of problem, definition of research design, inductive scientific resolution, importance of statistics, types of statistics, types of test, and so on. So it is a very informative sessions, even though it was all done in a very short span of time. On behalf of Christ Deemed to be University, Pune Lavasa campus, I would like to thank Father Josie P. George, Dean and Director, Justin P. Verghese, Academic Coordinator, and also I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Amod Markale, HOD, MBA, Dr. Becky Thomas, and all my colleagues and research scholars. Thanks a lot for making this event, making this webinar a very grand success. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, participants. I love talking to you.
Thank you.
Should we leave, Jayant?
Yes, sir.
Jerin,
Yes,
you're
sir.
on mute.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much, sir.
Okay.
It was
Thank
very
you.
Now let's
informative.
Very much.
all rise
Thank
for
you.
Christ anthem.
Oh,
Really?
okay. Right. Christ anthem. Okay.
It's not audible.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, अभी हमारी है. हाँ.
I think there's some problem with audio. So thank you very much, all of you. And we will conclude the session. We can all
Thank you,
leave.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.